Hi everyone, this is Philosophy of the People. I'm Stefan Bertram, and I'm joined for the first time by C. Derick Varn, whose webcam has just gone off the second we get onto YouTube.
Oh boy.
And today, oh boy, today we're going to be going through the Philpaper survey. I did this previously with Ben Burgess, I think 1 or 2 years ago. It was a great deal of fun. That time I curated the questions and we did them kind of in order of interest. So we'd get through the most interesting ones before the end of the show for certain. But obviously it also led to a problem as we got through the show, the questions became less and less interesting. So this time I'm going to read them out in alphabetical order, skipping any ones I find particularly boring and dull. I'm first going to read out just the well, it depends, but some of them I'll read out just the question for Varn before I actually give him the stated answers. Other times I'll just give the stated answers. And then if there's anything interesting, we can talk about what the results were, because I also have the results from the world's analytic philosophers. And we will be starting off... we'll be starting off without Varn. Thank you, Red Dogra, for repping my coat. I don't know if I should be wearing it because I'm actually sweating like hell. It's meant to be zipped up. It's much cooler that way, but it's much cooler that way. But it's really hot in here. Well, it's not really hot in here. This is just a really hot ass coat. So yeah, I'm not fully equipped, not fully zipped up. I'm probably not going to show it very much, but this is how the Philpaper survey looks. It's not the most exciting thing in the world, as you'd expect. I am going to skip the first one so we can look at that. The first question on the Philpaper survey is a priori knowledge, yes or no? Actually, maybe I shouldn't skip this one. Maybe if and when Varn returns, I shouldn't skip this one. So I think it does have some relevant kind of Marxist notions. But the thing is, it's like, it seems relatively obvious that the answer is yes, that there is a priori knowledge. And of course, the results in the survey mirror that. Hi.
Hello. Hopefully we have no more system failure.
I hope so too. You're coming in clearer and at the right time, so I'm optimistic. Varn, I wanted to ask you, a priori knowledge, yes or no? I assume you didn't hear that.
Hello.
Hi, can you hear me?
Great. This makes great live footage when everything fails.
It's fine. It's fine. After 10 minutes, everything will be perfect. We're just having teething problems, I'm sure. I can, if we're having large problems with you hearing me, I can also just put it up on the screen and we can see that the question is a priori knowledge, yes or no. The thing is, Varn's video looks perfectly fine, so I think it's sound problems he's having.
It's sound problems, and I can hear you now. Let me turn this up.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, I could have given you longer before we went live, but I just thought you had it. Oh, fuck, this coat is so hot. Oh. I'll just take it off. I'm trying to think if there's anything I can do, but not really. I can continue to comment on a priori knowledge, but I don't want to just talk completely and then cause further problems for Varn trying to work stuff out. So maybe it is better if I just talk and talk, and then he's never unsure if he'll be sure that he can hear me when he can hear me. I think there was a time, maybe in the
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Is that hearing?
As a professional podcaster, I've actually never had sound fail this bad.
I know. I was thinking, like, I've never. I don't think I've ever had or seen this happen to you.
Are you talking now?
I'm not talking at the moment. I can keep I can keep blathering on if it helps you QA stuff. Soon. Well, I did mislead you all by putting test in the title. I thought test would be more clickbaity, but there isn't a win or a failure here for Varn. Apart from, well, currently there is an actual failure state, which is just we can't hear each other, and Varn cannot speak. But there wasn't meant to be a failure state. I didn't intend there to be a failure state. I intended for Varn to answer a series of philosophy questions on his own basis, on his own knowledge, and then to compare that to the common analytic perspective. And I think it's obviously interesting to talk with someone who is an English-speaking academic and who is someone who understands analytic philosophy, but is not an analytic philosopher themselves. Is obviously, as we very well know, Derick Varn is in fact a Marxist. A Marxist with at least, because, I mean, Karl Marx himself predates the continental versus analytic division, but he's been much more influential over the analytic side of the equation than over the continental side of the equation. With the kind of analytic Marxists being like a small group of guys, of which Ben Burgess can kind of elaborate on all of them, while the kind of continental Marxists would not be something you could discuss in one mere YouTube video. So yes, the Philpaper survey was a 2020 survey of English-speaking philosophy academics, but because of the demographics of who are English speakers and the fact that the questions were written by an analytic philosopher or by a group of analytic philosophers, the test is completely the quiz, the survey is completely analytic in its structure, in a sense of the questions it asks, and because they wanted to get numerical results, the answers are typed, as in, like, you say yes or no or this or that. You don't get to type your own answer. Rather, it was typed by them, and so the whole structure of it is very much analytic in that way. Have you made any progress? Yes, and it goes on. It's a very long quiz. It's also, there is an interesting bit of on the demographics They tested everyone's area of specialization, nationalities. You can see, yeah, it is just the USA, UK, Canada. It's the three big countries. And the funnest bit, so like you can see that Germany is actually fourth here. Germany with 89 scholars in nationality, but that drops to 56 if we go to country primary affiliation, as in where these scholars do their teaching and researching. And so we can see very clearly that this is a survey of analytic philosophers. It's analytic philosophers that have answered this question. And of course, there's a very direct question here where they asked people's tradition. They say 1,430 out of about 1,700 say analytic, 113 say continental, only 17 say both. There were 169 say other, which is interesting, though that could be a refuse to answer in a different sense. I mean, we can hear me, and Varn is fine when he speaks. The problem is seemingly that Varn can't hear me, often can't speak, is lagging, and so on. So I was just texting Varn as he continues to struggle. Virtue ethics master race. Yeah, and I mean, 3 people answered Aristotelian. But if we look at non-living philosophers most identified with, it was really fun getting Ben to try and guess this list. Here we see, so to be clear, non-living philosophers, they only ask for dead people. But here we get top 10, and the 3 biggest ones is Aristotle, Hume, and Kant, probably to the surprise of no one. Then the other 3 that are above 100, we get Lewis, Wittgenstein, and Quine. Lewis is probably the one that people that aren't philosophers who would have no idea who the fuck he is. Quine, I think, is also like that, but is more rememberable just because his name is very interesting. We got into Frege, Carnap, Russell, again, Frege and Carnap are probably people that most people have not heard of. And then we get kind of what the more famous people are for non-philosophers. We get into Russell, Plato, Rawls, Mill, Aquinas, and then finally our good friend Karl Marx, followed by Socrates, which is a very funny answer, considering the man wrote nothing, and we have no record of his work apart from indirectly through Plato. It was really fun when this question came out because there's an interesting phenomenon that goes on Reddit Ask Philosophy, where people will refuse to accept that a particular answer is popular because it disagrees with them.
All
Hello,
right,
friend.
and oh, I can hear you.
You sound great.
Great. Let's go.
Great. Ignore everything that's happened before. We're starting now. Not all of the previous 15 minutes, a collective hallucination. And I'll begin now by asking Varn, a priori knowledge, yes or no?
A priori knowledge, yes or no? Synthetic a priori, yes. A posteriori a priori, no. So basically, you can know this. You could know the structure of things before you experience them,
Yeah.
but you cannot experience qualia or anything substantive beyond that.
Cool. Reasonable, normal answer, and that's why I didn't ask this one, because I think it's it's a question that was controversial, I think, at some point in the 1800s, but broadly I don't think it is anymore. A more exciting one for me, at least. perhaps not for our audience who aren't philosophy nerds, in the main at least. Abstract objects, Platonism or nominalism?
Nominalism.
Nominalism. You don't believe that courage exists?
in the universe beyond the expression of courage? No, I don't.
Yeah, it's just you think they're kind of human concepts to describe real phenomena, but don't necessarily need not a physical, but like a real reference point to go off of.
Once the concept has been given a definition, we can talk about what that means, but you're not going to find that definition universally in the world. So, there's no form of courage ideally in existence before we define it. And that does make me I think it actually makes me an abductionalist, but which is close to a nominalist.
Yeah. There is a question that talks about abductionism later. I can't remember which one it is. I will also from now on actually explain what the answers mean. Platonism is the view that abstract objects, as in concepts, exist in some real way. Normally, this doesn't mean they exist physically, but often, like for instance, with utilitarianism, people might try and do an actual kind of physicalist approach to something like happiness. But Platonism is usually associated with the view that there are real abstract objects which exist somewhere, somehow, sometime, but not in the normal way that other objects do, but in some sense they are real. I think a very fun one: aesthetic value, objective or subjective?
Oh man, you tell this.
Surely this is right up your alley.
Aesthetic value is subjective in the sense that there is not going to be a universal definition of beauty to which we could all cohere. However, once you define what you are talking about, there is a way which you can objectively cohere to those definitions. So, again, I've always found this question to be somewhat like very 19th century, but also very, you're either a Bloomsbury groupist or you're a Kantian, and I'm not either.
Right.
You tell this was written by analytic philosophers because they try to nail you into two positions that are kind of problematic.
There are some questions later on which have a completely unnecessary large amount of options, but the first two are like yes or no.
Yeah.
I should also be doing for ones I think are interesting. I should be asking you what you think the analytic philosophers say. So for abstract objects, Platonism and nominalism, what do you think the percentage are for both sides?
Oh, that's close. I'd be like 60% Platonist. That would be my guess, but it's hard for me to. When was this given? 5 years ago?
2020. Yeah.
Oh man, what was the fad back then? I think we were back on Platonism at that point.
It gives 38% for Platonism and 42% for nominalism.
Oh, so okay. I vastly overestimated the Platonist. But I got the nominalist about right.
Yeah, no, I think most people, I think you've got better instincts than most people, because most people think Platonism is like ancient stuff that no one believes anymore. Like obviously we're all nominalists about everything.
No. Talk to mathematicians. It's like they'll start trying to convince you that two
exist.
Yeah,
I mean with mathematical objects, I think you have a very hard time explaining how mathematics works if you don't believe in the reality of some abstract objects. Which is not to say that you have to then just give up and accept Platonism, but I think mathematics gives the strongest example of.
Right.
Well, you can very much ask this question of like, how can we keep discovering things within this system if it isn't heavily implicit in reality in some way, and if it isn't heavily, and how is it heavily implicit in reality if it's not real in some way? And if you say no, you actually kind of, I think it pushes you more towards like a simulation hypothesis or something like this. For aesthetic value, what do you think the leanings were there?
Oh man. I'm guessing subjectivist would be narrowly larger. Probably like 55% ish.
It's just barely the other way. And also remember, it's philosophers, so you never get 50. Like it's never like 50-50. There's always like
No,
20%.
there's going to be a bunch of people like me who are hedging their bets.
So it's 44% objective, 41% subjective.
All right.
And then 5%, the question is too unclear to answer.
Yeah. 5% fucking non-cognitivist or something.
Yeah. So you only get the options it gives you, but you also can take accept an alternative view. The question is too unclear to answer. There is no fact of the matter, and agnostic. Eating animals and animal products. Is it permissible to eat animal and or animal products in ordinary circumstances? Omnivorism, yes and yes. Vegetarianism, no and yes. Or veganism, no and no.
I would say omnivorism with the caveat that I do think vegetarianism is more ethical. I, however, would venture to say veganism becomes problematic in so much that I don't know how you get out of using animal products in agriculture indirectly.
Well, and also, I think if you accept veganism, you have to tangle with a very difficult question of, are we just going to do an animal genocide of like the current generation?
Yeah, well, there's that too. The whole we shouldn't have pets, we shouldn't have bees, we shouldn't. And I'm like, okay, so then all the chickens die, absolutely. All the cows die, absolutely. Most of the pets die, absolutely. And you've massively fucked up the human biome in doing it, and the world biome. So, yeah.
My strange view on the matter is I'm not convinced that most non-human animals are morally relevant in any significant way, but I think the moral hazard of being wrong is so great that we should eventually try and abolish animal agriculture anyway. And because I don't think the animals matter morally, I don't have this worry that the vegan does.
Yeah, I do have issues when you go to like Peter Singer-esque logic where I like should consider the bees but not the disabled people.
Do you think analytic philosophers believe in vegetarianism?
Man, I would say, okay, if it happened today, I'd actually say no. But 5 years ago, probably about 44-45%, somewhere in there.
Said omnivorism or said vegetarianism / veganism?
Vegans probably about 5 to 10%, and omnivorism probably put at 40.
Yeah, no, I think you did quite well there. We've got 48% for omnivorism, and then combined vegetarianism and veganism are 44%. What you kind of got wrong was people are much more likely, like vegetarianism is 26%, while veganism is 18%. So I think most people that like half of people that go to one, I think you may as well go to the other.
Yeah, and until they try to explain to me how you do certain crops with no animal agriculture or hydrocarbons, then it's a whole different problem. But everybody's got moral exceptions, I guess. But I suspect that's changed now because veganism has declined precipitously and vegetarianism has slightly gone up, but it's not as sexy as veganism. So vegan products are disappearing from the market today here in America. I don't know what they're doing in Britain, but
yeah, so I think there was a peak and we've been in decline since, but I don't think they're going away, especially because I think we're about to see a revolution where fake meat becomes as good as real meat. And once it can go in price below actual meat, then it's over.
Yeah, I'll eat a fake steak.
Would you enter the experience machine though, Varn?
The experience machine. Oh man.
So the experience machine is the thought experiment about getting into a machine which completely convincingly simulates a better world than the one you live in for you.
Yeah, sure, why not?
Oh wow, really? You'd get in?
I mean, I didn't say it's stay in, but if anything, there's a morbid curiosity about what they think is a better world.
Or if we just if we say that, you know, objectively is a better world, you can then get in it and distinguish what sort of better world is out there. What is the actual truth about a better world?
Yeah, that's. I think I would get in. I don't know that I would stay in it, but I think I would get in just to experience it for a second. I have no idea what analytic philosophers say on this. I suspect a lot of them would get in, but then again, sometimes they surprise me at how cowardly they are. So I don't know.
It's it's a crushing no. But I mean, to be clear, I think as the question is normally asked, it is you get in there forever.
Oh well, then no.
Yeah. I think the point is how do we distinguish between the real world and a fake world? And I'm always like, well, this is a problem of even when you're in the machine, you're still in the real world. Your body is still in the real world.
Right. So like if the power turns off.
Yeah. And of course, like they say like, oh, but that won't happen or whatever. And of course, this gets into the problem, a general problem in analytic philosophy, where it's just like you just torture the scenario until you get like an abstraction, which can lead to interesting results, but also kind of slice off all the kind of interesting parts. The question here before the brackets, if I just don't read the bracketed bit, is literally footbridge, push or don't push.
Oh, the other element of the trolley problem, you know, which was supposed to prove no, I wouldn't push, and I have actually found the analytic abstraction here to be offensive. Like to say actively harming someone is objectively the same as passively harming or not harming someone, is to remove the fact that qualia is part of a human feedback loop. And would have an effect on your internal calculus. So I actually find the question, I've always found this question to be, you know, an analytic philosophy sort of assumption that actually assumes what it needs to prove, and that is that everyone actually actually functions on a utilitarian calculation, and that's important.
To be clear for the audience, the bracketed part is pushing man off bridge will save 5 on track. What ought one do?
Yeah. Yeah.
As Varn has outlined, it's a variation of the trolley problem where instead of indirectly harming someone to save 5, you directly harm someone in order to save 5. Yeah. And philosophers agree with you, Varn, quite strongly.
Good.
Free will.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Compatibilism, libertarianism, or no free will?
I'm a compatibilist in so much that I do not believe in countercausal free will. Yeah. I do think all inputs are part of your will, but I actually think the emergence of complicated inputs and multi-determination means that agency actually does have a limited existence. I do think people have real choices to be made, even if those choices are not uncaused, because there's multiple causes an individual mind has to process which one they're going to act on. So I guess I'm a compatibilist who believes in limited agency. The other thing is, I don't understand. I'll just say this. I know that there are supposedly sophisticated refutations for this, but if you're not a compatibilist, why are you trying to convince anyone to be a determinist because they're determined to be a libertarian? I don't.
Well, you know, they don't have any choice in the matter, so.
Like, that's true. I guess they don't either, but it just, the whole thing just starts feeling like, what's the point? Exactly.
Yeah. Especially as a philosopher, to be like, oh, I don't have free will. It's like, why don't you do anything else then?
Like, I guess you were determined to be useless.
Again, you very much agree with the analytic philosophers who are crushingly behind compatibilism. Gender.
Uh-oh.
Biological, psychological, social, or unreal?
If I have to pick one, I would say social.
Yeah, me too.
And I think that's going to be overwhelmingly the answer too.
Yep.
I do think there are both biological and psychological components to gender, but those are so socially mediated as to almost be unknowable. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean the interesting thing is that a lot of contemporary kind of like popular trans discourse, like pro-trans discourse, is based on this kind of simplistic psychological account of gender, where the only thing which matters is some kind of internal self belief or whatever. But that's very much not the case among philosophers who, as Varn rightly guessed, and we both are, and I think Ben was too, believe in the social reality of gender. I think as soon as you start thinking about it and get away from kind of pure ideology, it's the option which makes the most sense.
Yeah, the idea that like there's been just I think about Ian Hacking's kinds of persons, and once you have categories for persons, they can exist, but before those categories exist in the way we define them, you really can't talk about like say autistic people in the 2nd century because
100%.
what does that mean?
Yeah. No, I recently did a show which is one of the most popular ones we've done in a while, actually, where I talked about the current state of fantasy literature. I talked about Brandon Sanderson. Brandon Sanderson, beyond just not being very good at writing prose, also has become increasingly convinced of a need to portray like psychologically realistic characters. But what that means is writing fantasy, which is pre-modern in structure, with
the modern
characters
mindsets,
which could literally be diagnosed with the DSM-5. His main character has depression in like the really frustrating and realistic way that a contemporary person will have depression, and that they don't really make any progress and so on normally. And yeah, it's a really stunning literary choice, which hasn't prevented him from becoming the most popular fantasy author.
Nope, he lives up the street from me, and yeah, he teaches at BYU. He like lives literally not that far away.
Yeah.
I actually know I teach people who like hung out with his kids.
Really?
And yeah, and that's probably all I can let on about that. But yeah, I find this want to portray fantasy or medieval mindsets as modern, based off of psychological diagnoses transhistorically, particularly. And I'm not psychiatric in the sense that I do believe, for example, there are such things that are treated by psychiatric drugs, but there's the idea that like you could open the DSM and understand people from even 200 years ago, or even like my grandparents' generation, even, to be quite honest, they would find all that alien. And even when I go to like talk about people like I sometimes talk about Christopher Lasch, and when I talk about Christopher Lasch, I have to remind people he does not mean the DSM definition of narcissism. He means the Freudian definition of narcissism, which is completely, it's a different thing. Like,
yeah, I mean, it is fascinating to throw backwards throughout all of history what is genuinely regarded now as at least a largely failed science. God, theism, or atheism?
Functionally, I would be an atheist in the sense that I don't I think that Western theism that assumes that God creating the universe creates an infinite regas problem. I also don't understand what would even be meant by non-physical beings that also have creative agency. However, I would say, like, I find new atheism obnoxious, and I mean, I'm probably even technically religious, but like, I'm an atheist, I guess.
Yeah, it is funny for me because the kind of triple oh God that's omniscient, all powerful, and so on. It's probably the least possible believable God for me. It's hard to think of a concept that is less believable for me than that one, including all the other God concepts. Because it requires there never to been any sort of gratuitous suffering ever in history.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
Related to what we were discussing earlier, laws of nature, Humean or non-Humean? Humean laws of nature for the audience, or laws, is the idea that the laws of nature, like the laws of physics and so on, are a mere description of what's going on, but are not actual binding laws. That things do things, but it's not caused by these laws. While a non-human approach believes that, the laws of gravity actually kind of in some significant way directly bind and dictate the movement of objects.
I remember when I was doing philosophy in undergrad, this was actually a question that I never could fully articulate what my stance completely was on. My suspicion is that there is not a meaningful difference between the Humean and non-Humean model, and that but the danger of going with the non-Humean model is the assumption that these laws bind objects in a way beyond the processes that bring them about. And so the biggest one, I mean, gravity is like a big one because we don't entirely understand it, but it's pretty clear there are times where gravity does not function. Now we know why it doesn't function to some degree, because you're away from things that cause centrifugal fields, force, and blah blah blah. But this is like a problem that you get in like M theory and brain theory. For those of you, that's quantum physics and string theory, for those of you who don't know your physics. But do we assume something exists because the math for it can be made to work?
Yeah.
And if you are non-human, you say probably. And if you are human, you'd say, well, I mean, why? That's just a metaphysical postulation. So I guess I go with the Humean on this. But it's actually, that one's a tough call.
Soon asks, can you believe physical laws exist, but our understanding of them as a model? I think everyone thinks that, if they believe that physical laws. Well, I think humans also believe physical laws exist, just not in a binding way, that they're just descriptions rather than
right. That you could encounter a place that didn't have gravity, like for whatever reason, because the things that cause gravity to exist would not function there. Or you would encounter a condition that does not have entropy, for example. I mean, another one.
Most people are non-humans, by the way.
Yeah, I figured they were. Laws are binding.
This is a funny one. I mean, feel free to skip if you don't have anything interesting to say. But meaning of life. Well, actually, what do you think might be the options here when it just says meaning of life?
Yes, no, maybe doesn't make sense as a question.
It is subjective, objective, or non-existent.
Subjective.
I'm inclined some way to say non-existent because I'm not sure, like, what the meaning of life. Like, it doesn't feel like a serious academic, like, fully developed concept.
No, particularly ask the analytic philosophers, right? Because they're the people who're supposed to pin down. But what are we defining exactly? Like, are we defining teleology? Are we defining metaphysics? Are we defining ethics? Like, it's not clear.
Yeah. Meta-ethics, moral realism, or moral anti-realism?
Boy. Okay, so again, this I might go all Lester McIntyre and everybody in English common language philosophy, in which I might actually say the question itself um, assumes that there are real universal rules, or that there aren't, as opposed to once we have defined a concept, say a virtue, that we could objectively know what that is. I mean, if those are my two options, I'm closer to an anti-realist in that, like, I don't think there's an objective set of virtues in the world that we can just come to. I don't think there's ever going, like, I've always thought that utilitarianism tries to, like, basically skip the metaphysical question, and same with pragmatism. And I think deontology just becomes absurd very quickly.
Well, if I know my alphabet, we will soon moving on from meta ethics to normative ethics, so we can get into utilitarianism in a second.
Ooh.
Mind, physicalism, or non-physicalism? Are you a brain? See Derick Varn.
I'm trying to figure out if emergentist would actually count as physicalism. Because I actually don't think that we are just brains, but I do think that all. I think I'm still a physicalist, because I would still say all intelligence and conceptions of self are still embodied.
I think the border between being a physicalist and non-physicalist is if you think that it's impossible for the mind to exist without a brain, then regardless how you cut it, you're a physicalist. While if you think it's possible for minds to exist without a brain, or whatever, like a machine or some kind of strong physical, like it's strongly and absolutely necessary for all minds to be physically instantated to exist, then you're a physicalist. While if you believe there's a possibility for a mind to be instantated without there being any physical hardware to go along with it, then you're a non-physicalist.
I think I would be a physicalist, because I do think there is some kind of hardware even in emergentist. Like, even if we're talking about like quasi-consciousness in plants, we're still dealing with biochemical feedback loops.
We will get onto AI, and the question they ask about AI and the results of it are bloody ridiculous. So most philosophers are physicalists, 52%, but actually a large percentage are non-physicalists, on 32%.
Yeah, that's high. That actually is higher than I'd expect. I wonder what they think those minds are.
Do you know about Newcomb's problem?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Are you a one boxer or are you a two boxer?
You're a two boxer.
I'm a two boxer. Yeah, that's we can continue on. I've had long argument. Well, it's like a very silly thing where it's not me arguing with Ben, but it's me and Ben together arguing with chat, who are one boxers. I'm not gonna, for anyone that doesn't know, I'm not gonna explain it because it would take too long for something which isn't like, this is pure analytic philosophy. This is like absolute uncut analytic philosophy, absolutely irrelevant to anything apart from kind of making a minor point in decision theory. Normative ethics, deontology, consequentialism, or virtue ethics?
Virtue ethics.
Yeah, me too. Varn, we're too agreeable.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, what did Ben say about this? I actually don't know what he thinks on ethics. He's probably a utilitarian.
I can't actually remember. I think he went with utilitarianism, but not in like a narrow, obvious kind of way,
Mm-hmm.
Like he certainly, I can't remember him being like, oh, it's definitely this, Do you want to talk about virtue ethics to the chat?
Sure. I mean, I'm a virtue ethicist because I think you can do. I am not properly speaking Aristotelian virtue ethics because I do not think that there are teleological necessities that produce a specific set of virtues. So Lester McIntyre would probably still think I'm a dirty emotivist because I don't think that we can objectively come up with a coherent set of virtues that are self-sufficient and rooted in some kind of historical tradition a la Aquinas, and thus rational. But I do actually think once you define your virtues and you situate those virtues in a context, that you can talk about them in realist terms and objectively. and that I think we can do comparisons of virtues and look at different life outcomes and say, well, this virtue does not necessarily produce, certain life outcomes. So we can't say if it's good or bad, but we can say, well, if you embrace this set of virtues, you're going to most likely have these set of outcomes, and that's probably going to be suboptimal for you.
How do you avoid kind of a slip into consequentialism, like a subjective form of consequentialism on that?
I don't know that I do. I do think you have.
It's fine. Just go. I don't care. Like, I don't mind if that happens. It happens.
No, I mean, I do. My thing is with consequentialism is you do have the problem of deducing a norm from a description.
Yeah.
And it could be that you want this virtue regardless of. I mean, every now and then you'll get an honest libertarian, right? And they will tell you that they really believe in freedom regardless of all consequences, and God damn it, they're going to maintain it. Those people are extremely rare, and they're not most libertarians, but they exist. So I mean, I do think that would be an ethical choice that we could say, like, that's an ethical choice. You can do that. You can believe in that, and you can fight for that. I don't know what it's going to get you, but I just think we could more realistically say, like, oh, if you prioritize this, I don't know, certain virtues of others, you're likely to have certain outcomes, but I don't think we can say that those outcomes are good or bad.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think my inclination to virtue ethics is based on like the idea that when we do moral talk, what people are normally doing is talking about virtues and vices. I think kind of that's what people are interested in talking about when they talk about morality. And kind of the abstract kind of questions of like, oh, will this in 1,000 years lead to more good consequences? Is not what people are talking about.
It's not what people are talking about, and I don't even think it's knowable. So,
this is probably one of the most surprising results in the test. While all options are very close together, I think we would naturally assume that a plurality of analytic philosophers are utilitarians, and the second largest group are deontologists, and the third largest group are virtue ethics. But very surprisingly, the largest group on 37% are virtue ethicists.
Oh, it's good to know we won.
Deontologists actually in second place on 32, and actually in last place on 31%, we have consequentialism. But I don't know if you can filter the results by people who are actually ethicists, and I think on that, virtue ethics does not quite come out as strong.
Yeah, I think the ethicists tend to. I mean, most of the ethicists I know tend, like, particularly the people who are more realists, tend to be utilitarians of some sort. But I've also thought that they just speak to the public more. And my favorite thing with them is just asking the various utilitarians, like, how you come to your conclusions, because that can produce Peter Singer and David Benatar. And I remember a bunch of objective estimates 15 years ago who would talk about how property damage was akin to murder.
Big.
And I'm like, well, one of those people thinks that we should destroy all life, period. One of those people thinks that, like, bees are probably slightly more valuable if they're able-bodied than disabled people. And one of those people is a libertarian. So I don't know. Doesn't seem like that rule actually is all that helpful, does it?
The next question is philosophical progress. Is there any? And the options are none, a little, or a lot.
A little.
I think that is the most popular option, and I would agree. I think philosophy progresses just very slowly. And it has the natural advantage of being the first academic subject.
Yeah, I mean, I think philosophical progress is, and always progress towards what, but I do think we could talk about things where there has been, like, in law and like formal logic, there has actually been innovation through failure that has led to things beyond philosophy. So that seems like we could call that progress. Do I think like some abstract progress exists? Probably not.
The the next one has answers that you would never guess. So it's political philosophy. What do you think the three options given are?
Rouseian, Nazikian, and I don't know.
They're not named. But if we do Nozickism as in libertarianism, that's one of the three options there.
Okay, libertarianism, liberalism, monarchism. I don't know. Actually, this is wild.
Yeah, no, the other two are not. The three are communitarianism, egalitarianism, and libertarianism.
Oh, that's a terrible question.
Yeah, I know, it's really bad.
If I have to pick between those two choices, man, I would probably pick between communitarianism and libertarianism kind of equally because I'm a Marxist and that's splitting the difference. But that's a terrible question.
Yeah, it's really bad. Most people said egalitarianism.
Oh, so they don't. Okay. Well, I just want to quote Marx at him, but that's not going to change their minds. So,
race. Biological, social, or unreal?
It's sociological. I don't know how it'd be unreal. And I mean, sure, there's biological correlates, but anyone who knows anything about genetics knows that there's more difference in genetics in the African subcontinent than there is in the entire rest of the planet. So, that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty boring answer. The answer is social, and everyone says that. Though actually, an interesting 15% of people say unreal.
Okay. Am I to assume they're hyper liberal or hyper conservative? I actually can't tell.
I would say there's probably half of them are hyper woke, and half of them are libs, but kind of in a very philosophy professor way.
Got it. Yeah, you're probably right.
Science, scientific realism, or scientific anti-realism? I'm trying to actually remember the definition of scientific realism.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Right, yeah. So it's about scientific realism is about scientific theories. Scientific realism is the idea that by a greater or lesser degree, scientific theories actually describe the world, while scientific anti-realism is the view that they are just theories, basically.
I would. You tell analytic philosophers wrote this because my answer is
the Plato Stanford EDU page gives the positive scientific realism is a positive epistemic attitude towards the content of our best theories and models, recommending belief in both observables and unobservable aspects of the world described by science. And I think it's the unobservable parts which are particularly kind of key for this sort of discussion. So funnily enough, you can't be how they're defined in philosophy. You can't be an empiricist and a scientific realist.
No, you could not be.
Scientific realism requires you to believe in unobservables.
I think I would technically count as an anti-realist on this. I don't know. Because I don't know, the unobservables are do we to give a people example of where they have weight, bring up string theory again. Do you believe that string theory is true because the math works out even though it cannot be observed, and it may not? I mean, there are elements of string theory that there is no way beyond the math to even test.
Yeah. Yeah, we are getting to a point in physics where one of the biggest struggles is, okay, you've made a model, but then how do we actually test that?
Yeah. Without destroying the universe.
Oh, yeah, or trying to get the government to spend 100 billion on a science project, which will have no discernible results for the military industrial complex.
Yeah.
Well, maybe one day we can shoot the Russians with a very large hadron collider.
Very targeted little mini black holes.
Most crushingly, analytic philosophers, it's one of the strongest results on the survey, are realists.
Of course they are. Because otherwise,
Ooh.
why the fuck would you care about these abstractions?
So there was a personal identity question that I skipped earlier on, but this gets it in much more concrete terms. Teletransporter, new matter, as in, so someone's getting transported through a Star Trek teletransporter, and they are being disassembled at one point, and they're being reassembled using new matter, new atoms, and so on at some other point. Does this person die during this process, or do they survive?
They die.
I think they die too.
They die. I'm not like I'm actually even like do we assume continuity of memory is continuity of agency, and do we know that even rearranging people exactly in the same order that they are now without a different manner would lead to a continuity of memory? And I don't think we know that at all. So
Yeah, well, I think it's an analytic philosophy question, so you're meant to assume it does, but
yeah, that's still say they're dead.
people do agree with us that they are dead, but only slightly. It's 35% for survival, 40% for death, and one of the strongest others on the whole quiz, with 26% picking other, with 5% saying the question is too unclear to answer, and 8% saying there's no fact of the matter.
Cop outs. But yeah, but I mean, there isn't a fact of the matter, but cop outs. There's no fact of the matter of like most analytic philosophical thought experiments.
Yeah, they should have, I mean, they might have even emailed about this, emailed you this. I assume they emailed Ben, but I don't think he actually filled it out. Yeah, you could have just gone down and answered there's no fact of the matter for all of them. I am skipping some of these, but actually, I don't know. Maybe you actually have strong feelings about them because you're in literary fields. Like, for instance, this one I was going to skip because I really don't know anything about it and wouldn't have anything to say. But vagueness, is vagueness epistemic, metaphysical, or semantic?
Vagueness is semantic because it's about definitions. I could see epistemic vagueness being valid, but I don't think it's generally an epistemic problem. And I don't know I mean, metaphysical vagueness. There's just some stuff that's ooky in the universe.
I again, I don't know, but I assume it means that vagueness is like a real phenomenon that exists beyond our interaction with, like,
yeah. So there are concepts that that are so
innate. Like,
yeah,
to say like a pile of sand is innately vague, is metaphysically vague, is to say in some senses like the amount of grains that make up a heap is just a fundamentally real
right.
vagueness. But I don't believe that's true. But
yeah, I think you could probably count them. I mean, I guess maybe metaphysical vagueness could be like the observer effect.
Soon's point making clear that we're doing a real philosophy show today.
Yeah. I would say it's semantic. Most vagueness is semantic, which is just about unclear definitions.
This is what real libs are doing in your schools, wasting your taxpayer money talking about vagueness.
Yeah. Worse, they're doing it experimentally, where they actually spend money on this as opposed to just talk about it.
Most people do agree with you, Varn, with semantic on 52%. Do you know what a pea zombie is?
Yes, I know what a pea zombie is.
Do you think pea zombies are inconceivable, conceivable but metaphysically impossible, or metaphysically possible?
Conceivable but metaphysically impossible. I can think I can obviously I can conceive them because we can talk about it, but I don't think they're metaphysically possible.
No, I think it's a pretty ridiculous idea. For the audience, a pea zombie is a person with a brain, like a brain which is going, it's doing everything, and that person is acting in every way identical to a human. They have to be indistinguishable. A pea zombie is someone that's indistinguishable from a human being in every way, on a complete physical level, on a behavioral level, in every way. But the lights aren't actually on at home. There is no mind in there.
Yeah, and I think like it's conceivable, but I don't think they can exist. I mean, you have to be pretty much a dualist to think they can exist, I think.
It's an interesting thing because I can't remember his name right now, but there is a physicist who's also a philosopher, and
Mhm.
he made the point that if you do believe that zombies are metaphysically possible, then you seem to think the mind doesn't do much.
Right.
Because you seem to think that there could be a person out there who doesn't have a mind, but otherwise functions normally. In which case, what's the point of your so-called mind?
Yeah, I don't know.
Abortion.
Okay.
First trimester, no special circumstances, permissible or impermissible.
Um, I think I'm probably going to take the normal answer, which is what are my options? First trimester, no special circumstances, indefensible. Those are my three options.
Permissible or impermissible, yeah.
First trimester only, then permissible or impermissible.
Yeah.
I would say permissible, but not always good.
Oh, sure.
But yeah, permissible for sure.
What I would point out about this question is it shows how completely libbed out philosophers are. Of course, I obviously, I'm 100%. I think the access to common abortion is essential for like a civilized, reasonable society. But what's mental is, yes, abortion is the strongest result of anything on the survey, with 82%, while external world, idealism, skepticism, or non-skeptical realism, and the people that only say non-skeptical realism, as in there's a real actual world out there that isn't in your mind, is on 80%. So there's 1 or 2% of philosophers
who believe in abortion, but not in reality.
Yes. In which case, what the fuck is an abortion?
Oh man, that's funny.
Do you know anything about aesthetic experience? Because I would not know how to answer this question, but I can ask it to you if you think you might.
I think I have taken classes on aesthetic philosophy. Yeah.
Aesthetic experience, perception, pleasure, or sui generis?
Perception.
What does that mean?
That means that aesthetic experience is something that we perceive that may have a definition beyond mere pleasure. Because I mean, for example, I think Martyrs is a great movie. It is not pleasurable. Sui generis would mean that it is obvious in and of itself with no with like no contextual necessities, and I think that's ridiculous. So,
and I can tell you, it's the most popular answer on the survey.
Of course, aesthetic philosophers would think that shit. Okay, they're all fucking Kantians. It's what they are.
Yeah, with a mighty 37%, we get sui generis, 28% for perception, and 14% for pleasure. Yeah, I think actually, I mean, I don't know. I could have thought about it for a second there and probably worked out what the questions were apart from sui generis. I think the pleasure thing is very interesting because I think it's a common idea. I forget the word for it now, of like psychological, the belief that everything that anyone ever do is only for reasons of pleasure.
Yeah.
Which has this fascinating thing where it has to be retrocausal.
Right, like, because you can't know if you're doing something for pleasure when you do it. Like,
yeah, because it's people, you're like, oh, but I didn't feel bad or good at the time. And they're like, oh, but in the future, blah, blah, blah. Or you imagine, it's like, no, I didn't. Absolutely. Or just you'll talk to them, they just won't believe you about what you're saying about your own mental processes.
Yeah. I mean, to me, the for pleasure has the same problem as economic rationality, which is like it's perfectly circular or it doesn't exist. Like,
arguments for theism, which is strongest? Cosmological, as in like God creating the world. Design, as in not God creating the world, but God creating like thinking persons or whatever. Ontological, weird bullshit. Pragmatic, as in you'll go to hell if you don't. Or moral, as in with God you can have objective morality, without God you don't have objective morality.
They're all bad arguments, but the least bad would probably be cosmological. But
Yep.
I mean, like, they're all kind of bad. I mean, even the pragmatic, like, oh, so you don't think you can go to a different hell for a different God? Do you not know that other religions also have hells?
I also just don't believe it works. Like, I don't think you can actually pragmatically accept Jesus Christ into your heart. Either you accept him or you don't. Like,
no,
if you don't actually believe it, I don't think it would work.
I think Pascal gets kicked out ultimately. Like,
the strongest. Well, actually, it's 21% on cosmological, like us, 18% on design, but then 14% picked pragmatic, which I think is just another way of saying there is no best answer.
right.
And the full 6% said there's no fact of the matter. Capital punishment.
Okay.
Permissible or impermissible?
Permissible.
Ooh. I mean, I also believe this, but in a way of like real philosopher stuff, in that I wouldn't want it to actually exist in any real society that does exist, sorry. But I believe it's possible and a right option, at least some of the time, in some societies that could exist.
So here, I mean, my take on it is basically very similar. I will argue against the death penalty in most cases by the state because of the consequences of getting it wrong. But if I saw someone shoot someone in the act of, say, murder, I do not consider the person shooting someone morally culpable, which means at some level I do believe capital punishment is permissible.
Right.
And so yeah, I do think it's permissible, but I know that I'm a minority amongst philosophers and leftists and liberals, and I also would argue against it 99.9% of the time. I tend to be like,
how is it on the one where like we most clearly should have disagreed? We don't. we're both the two leftist libs, whatever's. They're like, oh no, actually, it's permissible because, of course, as you might be able to guess, it is I think the fourth highest consensus on the survey that it's impermissible.
Yeah.
75% said no. Chinese room. Sorry, no, you can go ahead.
No, someone says that's an appeal to consequences fallacy. I mean, which one?
I think they might be already talking about just going back to the God stuff. They might.
Oh, okay, yeah. They're mostly fallacious. Most of those arguments are fallacious. Okay.
The Chinese room.
Oh God. Okay. Yes.
Yes is an option. Understands or doesn't understand.
I
didn't realize that understands was even an option. And of course, he doesn't understand.
No, he doesn't understand. So for those of you who don't know the Chinese room, there's an idea you can put a person in the Chinese room who doesn't speak Chinese, doesn't understand Chinese, doesn't understand what they're decoding it into, but could decode using cryptids one thing to the other. And honestly, I think this is related to AI. Of course it can, and of course it doesn't understand.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, I think it has become a much more relevant question in the past few years as we ask the question of, can ChatGPT understand English? To which the answer seems obviously no.
Right.
Even if it has a much more complex system going on than that. Ooh, consciousness, dualism, eliminativism, functionalism, identity theory, or panpsychism. I think you're going to say none of the above.
None of the above.
None of the above.
Absolutely right.
This is one where other is nearly in first place. Other is being just barely beaten by functionalism.
Yeah, functionalism seems to be. I remember functionalism and eliminationism both being somewhat popular amongst analytics in the aughts, but I think most people see the problem with that. Like, you're just going to tell people that they don't experience consciousness because it creates a problem for you.
And I think also with functionalism, you then have to accept that quite basic AI systems are conscious.
Right. Like, you would actually, functionalism leads you to like actor network theory, and then I have to, not just basic AI systems, like I would have to argue that like my school is a conscious agent.
Oh yeah, that like the United States has consciousness. I'm trying.
Yeah.
Right now it's consciousness. Oh, continuing hypothesis. Does it have a determinate truth value? As in, is there actually, how many grains are there in a heap of sand? Derick Varn.
Oh man. What are my options on this one?
Determinate or indeterminate? As in, is there an actual answer, or is it?
There is an actual answer, so it's determinate.
Okay,
Like,
you think there's an actual answer?
How many grains are in a pile of
Sorry,
sand?
not. How many grains would there need for a pile to be a pile, as opposed to?
Oh no, that's indeterminate. That's indeterminate. Like
yeah,
it's
yeah, okay.
There's no hard. There's no like. There's 15 grains. Now we have a pile. No.
Yeah. Philosophers. How many philosophers think it's determinate?
Oh God, of course they do.
Though this is one where other gets up to 34%, getting higher and higher.
What's the other there? I'm trying to figure out what the other would even be. Like,
well, it's just people being like, "Oh, well, I don't know," or "I don't want to answer." Yeah,
okay.
agnostic, undecided is 27%.
Wow. I'm agnostic on whether or not we define a pile or not define a pile has an objective or non-objective condition that exists beyond language. Okay.
Cosmological fine-tuning.
Oh God, this one. Okay, go ahead.
What explains it? Design, multiverse, brute fact, or no fine-tuning?
Brute. I go back and forth between brute fact and no fine-tuning.
Yeah.
I don't know that we have actual evidence of a multiverse. It's just a mathematical possibility, and that makes probability work. I would probably say there's no fine tuning, actually, because it doesn't seem like there's life every fucking where.
No, so... yeah, I mean, I don't feel the universe is particularly fine-tuned at all, because it's a question of we're in some sense fine-tuned to the universe, but every thing in every universe is going to be fine-tuned to that universe.
Right.
Ooh. Do you have any thoughts on the foundations of mathematics?
Yeah, actually, I do. But go ahead, ask the question.
Constructivism/intuitionism, formalism, logicism, structuralism, or set theoretic?
I used to be set theoretic until I realized that it has the same problem that Bertrand Russell realized about it 100 years ago, which is how do you have a set of sets?
Yeah.
Formalism.
And what is formalism for the audience? I certainly know.
Formalism in mathematics is that it describes things stripped of their qualia, so you can talk about it in terms of formal movements. But how would you define it?
Oh, I have absolutely no idea. I was joking.
Oh, formalism, yeah, like that. Once you strip things from qualia, they're going to have structures that are mathematically predictable. So you remove all other categories you could talk about, which is why I find the realism, anti-realism, and math kind of like, well, I mean, sure, if I don't talk about any other quality than quanta, then and I follow the form of that out. I get you could also argue that's intuitionism, but I do think it's formalism in the sense that, like, once you do that, there's certain things that are going to flow in form, and you can observe that in the world. Is it real beyond that? That's a harder question.
Ooh, this is I think this one or the race one. Actually, the race one's boring, I think. But this is a fun one. Gender categories. Preserve, revise, or eliminate?
Oh man.
We'll get there eventually, Kush. Fish are involved in the question.
I would say revise. I used to be eliminate, but I watch how many people try to be non-binary and then revert back to a gender. So I'm gonna go with revise.
I think eliminate, but only in the sense that I think gender will always exist, but it'll at some point, hopefully, if we continue to progress, like economically, I mean, in a Marxist sense, we will eventually get to the point where they don't matter that much socially.
Yeah, particularly once you start decoupling them from any sort of biological imperative, then for sure. I think
I think that's a key part of it. Hard problem of consciousness. Is there one? Yes or no?
Oh man.
Do you want to explain the hard problem?
The hard problem of consciousness is why do you have awareness of your processing? Is that an emergent condition? And it is very, I actually will say it is very hard to explain. Like, or to even know if it's I mean, my question is, do we know that it's a human or even mammalian only problem? And I don't know that we do. It's a hard problem because it actually is hard philosophically. I do think there kind of is one, but I'm a little bit hesitant to say that because have you read China Miéville's like thing on Marxist consciousness recently? And I'm like, dude, you're jumping between like 15 definitions of consciousness, and you almost seem to know it. Like, oh,
yeah. On one hand, like when people try to do Marxist of X, I'm not sure if it's just because it's bad because like they aren't like Marxism shouldn't be used in this way, or it's just the person doing it is not doing it very well.
Right. Well, I mean, if people haven't read that, I would tell people to read that article on Salvage. But I would also say, I felt like I was reading a Christian. Like all of a sudden, I was just like, he's like, oh, there must be some other category. I'm like, what other category are you positing that like explains that Marxists can't be right about materialism because they're not right about consciousness? When you're using 3 different definitions of consciousness in this
and probably
in this
3
article.
definitions of materialism too.
Yeah. I mean, I'll admit Marxists are also bad at defining what they mean by materialism, but still.
I'm inclined to say there isn't a hard problem of consciousness, not because I don't think it's like a hard question in the sense I don't think there'll ever be an answer to why is this state conscious and this state not in a direct sense, but rather because I think the question will be slowly dissolved as we answer other questions.
I could see that.
Human genetic engineering, permissible or impermissible?
And okay. And I'm going to answer it like an analytic philosopher, then I'm going to answer it like a Marxist.
Yes.
Analytically permissible.
Yes.
Marxistly, not until we equalize the modes of production do I trust people fucking with genes. But yeah,
I think it's a standard, reasonable answer.
Yeah. I mean, if you are against any genetic engineering, I don't know how you have animal husbandry or plant breeding. I just don't, because effectively that is genetic engineering, just very slow. And also, if you've seen, just look at some dog breeds, we fuck it up all the time.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah, it will be fascinating when it finally becomes mainstream and there's one generation which is just so sharply distinct from the previous one. Yeah. Immortality, would you choose it? Yes or no?
No.
No.
Vaughn
welcomes his final death.
When people tell me about this and they're like, oh, you'll have your same consciousness forever, I'm like, oh my God, I can't like even the religions I've ever been attracted to don't promise that, because that seems hellish. I don't understand how memory works infinitely even, and what a self would mean at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I would say yes, but I wouldn't have any expectation that I would retain the same consciousness over time. I assume I would eventually become a different person, but this would be a gradual. I mean, I'd become very, very well. If you assume it actually goes on infinitely, I'd become an infinitely set of different people. But I think that's one of the reasons why lots of the grimness doesn't actually apply.
Yeah.
Skipping a lot of questions here, which are just pure fucking nonsense.
There's a lot of pure nonsense in analytic philosophy.
Meta-ontology was what I'm skipping.
Oh,
which has
God.
one of the options as heavyweight realism. Where's the AI question? Mind uploading, brain replaced by digital emulation, survival or death. You're so insanely dead. I don't know how anyone thinks yes.
The fact that I know a lot of tech bros think yes, in some ways, is a small comfort to me that their overlordship will be probably less long than prior bourgeoisie, but I don't know.
Oh, we finally got to the AI question. Nice. But before that, morality, non-naturalism, naturalist realism, constructivism, expressionism, or error theory.
Ooh, probably constructivism. I mean, probably virtue after this constructivist is what I would say.
See, Derick Varn considering continuing to pick the reasonable middle options. Do you don't want to say edgy, bizarre things for YouTube?
I mean, I could. What are my options for edgy, bizarre things? Like,
I guess error theory probably, or expressionism is probably the most off the wall one.
Expressionism. Yeah, I'd have to believe in a central self beyond. I'd have to believe in an atomized central self that was not social to be an expressionist. Probably. I mean, you know.
Or you could pick non-naturalist realism and then completely contradict like 10 questions that you've done so far, and then defend how that's actually true for bizarre reasons.
I mean, that would make an interesting philosophy paper, but I would be dishonest.
Here we go. This is the AI question, and this is a series of yes or no's. The question is, other minds, for which groups are some members conscious?
Okay.
The first one is accept adult humans. Do you accept that adult humans, or at least some of them, are conscious?
Yes.
That is the strongest question on the survey, with consensus on the survey, with 93% of people accepting that some humans are consciousness, and a further 1.8% leaning towards some humans being conscious.
That's such an analytic philosophy. Like, I'm not sure, but maybe.
0.18 lean towards humans not being conscious.
Okay. They had a bad day that day, I'm guessing.
Cats.
Are cats conscious? I tend to think mammalian's brain development would indicate that there's enough memory there for us to talk about consciousness. So yes.
Yeah, for me, obviously the question is, so I'm inclined to say yes, they are conscious, but I don't think conscious or not is really the relevant thing when we're talking about like minds and so on. But rather the question is meta self-consciousness. I don't think cats have it.
No, I don't think cats have it, but I do think magpies do. So
yeah. 88%, 89% say cats have consciousness. Fish.
Oh fuck. I'm thinking about what I learned about ichthyine brain structures. Rudimentary, yes, but I'm like with you. Do they have? I don't know. Other than dolphins, which are mammals, I don't know of anything that should. Well, no. Octopi do show signs of meta self-consciousness, but that's like it though. Yeah. I would still say they were conscious, but not meta self-conscious. So, yeah.
Flies.
Very rudimentary consciousness, as in they have a feedback processing loop, and they feel pain. But
we have recently found out about flies, haven't we?
Yeah,
that they kind of feel some kind of something to do with pain, because they don't have a central nervous system, but they do have a nervous system.
Right, they do have a nervous system. They can more or less feel pain, although not. I don't know that their experience of pain is anything like ours. But I do know that it is there. I would say very, very rudimentary.
So it's fish on 65% and flies are on 34%. Okay. With that, flies being the first one, people reject it. Worms.
Okay, if I say worms have consciousness, I might as well say a motor has consciousness. I'm not even talking about an AI.
Yeah.
Like just anything with an ideomotor effect. It's hard to justify. I would say that might be by line, actually, on the complexity required to say that you have of the feedback required in your nervous system to say you have consciousness is probably worms for me. Because if you say worms have a consciousness, then I'm also saying that like clams and mollusks have consciousness. Yeah. And I have no evidence that they do. And if I believe that, then plants have consciousness. Then yeah, I just I'm open to it's a possibility, but it'd be so rudimentary that I have trouble imagining what it would mean. So I'd say no.
And the next question is plants.
I once got into a fight with Lee Phillips about this because Lee Phillips was using the fact that plants might have rudimentary consciousness as a reason not to be a vegetarian and to eat meat. Which I was like, you don't need to make that argument because it's stupid. I have no idea. Like if we have to be egocentric and accept our consciousness as the basis of our comprehensive being consciousness, we are not dealing with anything with a brain. We're not dealing with anything with a foreseeable nervous system. We are dealing with something that does have hormonal feedback responses.
They have like some kind of internal messaging system.
Yeah, they do have feedback responses, but again, is it more complicated than a motor? I don't know. I'd say no.
So it's 24% accept on worms and 7% accept on plants. Particles.
No. Flat out fucking no. Like
2% accept on particles.
What kind of panpsychic hippies are we talking about here? Like even Buddhists don't go that far. Okay.
Newborn babies.
Ooh. Newborn babies probably have the consciousness of a cat.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say conscious, but not metaconscious.
Yeah, I'd say I don't think you have a metaconsciousness till you hit the idiom at the Mara stage. So
84% accept on newborn babies, which is actually slightly less than cats.
Oh, so people think their cats are more. I mean, cats can do more than newborns, but that doesn't mean.
Yeah, I mean, cats have more degrees of freedom, but I don't know if that means much. Current AI systems.
I see no evidence that they have consciousness as of yet.
Only 4% said yes, and notably this is before ChatGPT came out.
All right. But although ChatGPT is just a large language model, the AI technology that undergirds it is older than that.
Yeah. I don't think there's anything genuinely new about ChatGPT apart from the fact it's just got much better.
Yeah. I would say that I see no evidence of consciousness because it does not have evidence of continuity of memory even as much as a goldfish. I'm like, because if you change the instance, it's gone.
Yeah.
All learning is within the instance.
And the last one is, and this is the one that really triggers me, the answer that people give: future AI systems.
All right. If we are extrapolating off of current technology, no, but hypothetically, yes. So it is not that I don't think a conscious AI is impossible. I actually do think it's very possible. I just don't I don't think it's going to come from LLMs, and the
Yeah, you
amount of
don't think
energy.
that the ChatGPT 100 is also not going to be conscious?
Yeah, I don't think you get a AGI from large language models, even if you input energy inputs from like a fucking sun, which would
Yeah.
make it the most inefficient cognition machine ever made. But
Yeah. So much worse than a human brain,
like,
which runs on 30 joules, or is it watts, and can process most anything for energy. But the one that really annoyed me, so only 39% say yes here.
Oh, so there 71% think that it's not possible to have a conscious.
Okay, so lots of people haven't answered. So only the reject is only 27%, and then like 40% have hedged. But still, they didn't hedge on fucking fish. 65%
I hedged on fish. So
there's 25% of people out there that think any possible AI is not going to go past a fish. I find absolutely fucking ridiculous.
And they think they're atheist.
Yeah. I absolutely believe that it could be a future AI mind, if simply for the fact that I think you could like basically with sufficiently advanced technology, you could copy all basically the functions of a human brain onto silicon or whatever, and that system would run.
I actually do work. I mean, like, I think an AI might be based off of biological computing, which is something that already exists. Do I think that, which is to say, do I think that silicon computing will lead to it? I don't know. I tend to be doubtful, but I do think it is possible to exist.
Ought implies can. Yes or no? This is the view for the chat, to let Varn think. This is the view, or this is the question rather, that if we say that someone ought to do something, it has to be possible for them to actually do it, for you to be able to say they ought to do it.
I would say I have to answer this like an analytic philosopher. So one case of no would mean no. So I would say no. Ought does not always and forever imply can.
And the results on the survey were 63% for yes.
Oh, well, okay. So they think that it always implies can. And I guess, well, how do they explain the analytic thought experiments then?
True. Could they not torture up an example where ought does not imply can? I'm sure that's within their wheelhouse. Come on.
They torture up all kinds of shit. Like, we talked about pea zombies earlier.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they're doing the rare one where they're actually answering like generally what is the case. But in that case, it's like,
Yeah, generally ought does imply can, but not always. So
philosophical knowledge. Is there any? Such a funny question. I'm going to do the physics society survey and ask them if there's any knowledge in physics.
What's funny is philosophers are such masochists that percentage is going to be higher than 0.
And then the question, the answers are none, a little, a lot.
I think there's a little. I mean, I don't think there's like a ton of actual philosophical knowledge. Most things are hypotheticals, but like I do think like we have an idea of how principles of non-contradiction work, and
there's significant knowledge in logic.
Right.
It's 3.6% that say none.
Oh, okay. Well, it's actually lower than I expected. I figured it'd be like 9. I actually was taught by a guy who said there was no such thing as philosophical knowledge, and I was like, "Why are you teaching me then?"
This is what the libs are teaching you in university. They don't even believe it themselves. It's 56% that say a lot. So,
oh well. I mean, I also think that's the hubris of being a philosopher.
you a Plato head? Do you have any thoughts on?
I do have a lot of thoughts on Plato. I've thought a lot about ancient philosophy. Go ahead.
Plato, what is his view? Knowledge only of forms, or knowledge also of concrete things?
Okay. I used to believe it was knowledge only as forms. However, in parsing the aphoria at the end of the Parmenides, I would say actually he does believe in knowledge of things, because he actually argues successfully against his own knowledge, his own statement of forms. So
Great. I mean, we've got a clear answer and based on a direct textual reference. That's the best you're going to get on YouTube, mate.
Yeah.
This is going to be the most controversial one so far for chat and for me and you. Mm-hmm. Politics, capitalism, or socialism?
I mean, obviously socialism, but okay.
And what do you think the analytic philosopher said?
I don't know. 30-30, some cop out.
So 29% for capitalism and 53% for socialism.
Oh, yes. But I bet if we asked Marxists if they counted as socialist, only half of them would meet the criteria.
Well, it's just people who they mean I voted for Bernie.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Yeah, that doesn't totally surprise me, particularly in 2020. I think if we'd asked that question in 1990, it would have been slightly higher for capitalism.
Possible worlds: abstract, concrete, or non-existent?
Abstract. Like, I can't imagine a better possible world. I mean, come on, that would be non-existent. Yeah. And like concrete, they exist somewhere. I guess you have to be a multiverse theorist for that. But yeah, I'd say abstract. Abstractly, they exist.
I mean, I think if you say non-existent, you can't make sense of normal human language, or you have to believe that people are like doing some really weird stuff with language. Because if someone says, like, I would have gone to the shops if it hadn't rained, they're clearly describing another possible world.
Right. I mean, I do think about the weird English language philosophers who like adverbial. You've ever heard of this adverbial perception that we should only speak in adverbs so that we get out of possible worlds and can only speak in concrete things?
They try and change your language instead of changing their view.
Yeah. Yeah, those guys. But yeah.
Principle of sufficient reason, true or false? This is the idea that everything that happens is a reason that it happens.
Okay, I'm gonna just say semantically, reason is not cause. But if I was to take reason as cause, there's a principle of sufficient reason. My issue with that question, though, is reason does imply that we could possibly know the singular cause of what it is. And I'm not always, I do think overdetermination is a real problem. So there are so many possible causes that complexity means the absolute knowledge of what is not there. But yeah, I would still say being charitable towards the question, and assuming that by reason they mean cause, I'd say yeah. But if they think it's knowable cause, then I would probably say maybe not.
Do you know anything about propositional attitudes?
A little bit. It's been a long time since I thought about that.
Skip it. Like, race categories. Preserve, revise, eliminate.
I would love. Okay. If we are talking about over time and historically, eliminate. If we are talking about the way we talk about them now, revise.
Right. And eliminate is actually the strongest position here, I think, because people obviously know that race came about much later than gender.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Way later.
Rational disagreement. And two people with the same evidence rationally disagree.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. You agree with analytic philosophers. A brave 19% said no.
Okay. I okay. Like, where are you at on that, Stefan? Are you a knower?
I mean, I have some kind of vague sympathies to believing that, yeah, if you have all the evidence, then it isn't rational to disagree. But that's something which is literally impossible. Because also then you get into the question of it's only then possible if there are real values.
Right.
Because even if it isn't a moral question in any way, you still need to believe in the same I can't remember the word, like semantic values. You know what I mean? Epistemic, like, everyone thinks that, like, if you see something, that's evidence for something, but that's actually a value. Like, that's a
Right.
completely reasonable value that I accept. But like, if I go to my refrigerator and I see there's chicken in there, I believe I ought to believe that there's chicken in there. But that is obviously a norm.
Right. That norm is
Epistemic
based.
norms. Yeah.
Right. It's about epistemic norms, and that we have the same definition of chicken.
Yeah. And
Like,
so on.
like, yeah, the whole like, is a whale a fish actually is not as obvious, even scientifically, as you think it is if we define what a fish is slightly differently than we do now. Like,
this is the most pure analytic bullshit question ever, which I'm not
okay.
going to read out for us answering it, but I'm going to read it out for the sake of you hearing these string of words. Sleeping Beauty, open parentheses, woken once if heads, comma, woken twice if tails, comma, credence and heads on waking, question mark, 1/3 or 1/2.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. That.
And that got 53% for other, with 40% of people saying, "What the fuck do you mean, mate?"
Well, it's good when even 40% of analytic philosophers are like, "What? Whose paper did you rip this off of, and why did you bother?"
Statue and lump, one or two things.
Statue and lump, one of two
As
things.
in the all for the audience, all the materials that make up something and the thing that's eventually made into the same thing, or are they two separate things?
If I'm a nominalist, I believe they're two separate things. So
No, I think it's very clear that they're two separate things. I think because, I mean, yeah, as you say, like, the things that exist are like the categories which are useful for the speakers. And in that case, like, if I ask you for a statue and you deliver me a lump,
then you're a dick.
Yeah. You've not used human language well, or you're trying to deceive me. Ooh. Do you have any of the slightest concerns about temporal ontology?
A little bit.
Presentism and internalism are growing block.
This isn't materialism.
I feel like presentism is probably impossible unless you really torture things without a current understanding of physics. Because present, when, how, what, where.
Yeah. Eternalism. I would probably be a growing blockist, actually, because I'm an emergentist on a lot of these things.
Yeah, no, I think I'm inclined towards growing block, but I don't know if that's because I'm like cucking out of the actual answer, which is eternalism.
Well, I mean, okay. So I got in this argument with this Trotskyist once, who like was really dead set on disproving the Big Bang, and I was like, okay. So even if I assume an eternalist universe, sure, but then all you're arguing is that the Big Bang is part of or whatever cosmological beginning of this current instantiation of the universe. That there's something before it, but that can't be known. You can assume it. But what you can't assume based off of Aristotelian understanding of philosophy is that the universe is a constant, because we know it isn't. It's growing.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know how you explain infinity growing exactly, but it is.
Kush asks, why did Trotz hate the Big Bang?
Because Trotsky's view on dialectics locks him into maintaining a view about the Big Bang based on Aristotle. Actually, this is also true for diehard early Marxist-Leninists too, but they only dropped that in the 50s. But occasionally you'll meet people who like in Marxist circles on both sides of the ML Trotskyist divide who are like, no, we must. I don't know. However, the Trotskyists are the only people I know who make a big deal out of it. Like,
those guys just love to make big deals about nothing.
I think it's just how you get people to like. This is a sorting mechanism of what people.
Oh right, yeah, it's like a shibboleth or whatever.
Yeah. I'll see also like epigenetics somehow means Lysenko was right.
Horrendous, yeah. True contradictions. Impossible, possible but not actual, or actual.
Possible but not actual, I would say.
And these contradictions are not Marxist contradictions for anyone in the chat that's worrying.
Yeah. No,
basically nothing to do with each other.
Yeah, Hegelian use of the word contradiction and analytic philosophy use of the word contradiction do not mean the same thing.
Yeah. Unit of selection, genes or organisms.
I feel like this is a very 1990s question now, but
I'm inclined to like maybe say like neither of them, to say like species or whatever, you know.
I would say I was about to say, wouldn't it be species? Because organisms, I mean, I get the problem with species. We don't always have a clear definition of
like
species.
What the fuck is a species?
But it does seem like if I say genes, you have to deal with recent discoveries about both epigenetics and environmental triggers, which, you know, Richard Dawkins can't deal with. You notice he's been quiet the last 10 years and raving about stupid shit.
He's doing his job.
Yeah. If I say organisms, I have to deal with the fact that certain genes pass on, but we have sociological traits that protect certain genes, but does not protect an individual organism at all. So I would say probably species, with the caveat that, like, yeah, we also don't really have a super great definition of species because we're inconsistent in our semantics.
As you might guess, we're almost at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's 3 more questions. I think I'll skip that one. What the fuck? Okay, sorry. Actually, no, I should read this one. I think it's actually very interesting. Values in science. Is ideal scientific reasoning necessarily sensitive or insensitive to non-epistemic values? And the questions are necessarily value 3, necessarily value laden, or can be either.
Can be either. I mean, I know that sounds like a cop-out, but it just seems like there are some things that are not value laden, but there are definitely some things that are, just because to even articulate them, we've made normative choices.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a big distinction here between physical and the human sciences.
Right. Like, I don't like. For those of you who haven't read, okay, we're talking analytic philosophy, but for those of you not well versed in continental post-Lacanian philosophy, I don't think fluid dynamics is sexist. See, a la Rigore. But I would actually love, Stefan, if you could find this thing for continental philosophers, because I imagine that's
it would be fantastic. But I think innate in the structure of continental philosophy, they wouldn't make such a thing.
Yeah, I know. Like, why would we care what anybody says?
Like, it's only analytic philosophy who, of any subject, that would do this kind of thing, because it's both one where you have this inclination to do this kind of scientific quantitative stuff, while you know the answers will all be controversial.
Yeah.
Well-being, hedonism, desire satisfaction, or objective list. As in, how should we understand human well-being?
I have gone back and forth between hedonism and objective list, believe it or not, but I don't know how we actually come up with a purely objective list, so I'm going to have to say hedonism again. But I have thought about this because I actually have thought, like, when people like, I've actually said that I don't think happiness is an important human value. So
no, I think we do in philosophy and in people generally kind of massively overestimate how important happiness is. I think happiness is more just like it's useful to get you to do the stuff that actually matters, because if you're sad, you won't.
Right. Sadness is bad. Happiness is not necessarily a good.
Yeah. And the last question is a very silly one. Wittgenstein. Which do you prefer? And of course, the distinction there is early or late.
Wait, but it's stupid that you even asked this question. I mean, like I realized I had this realization talking about Lukács that I always thought Lukács in Destruction of Reason wrote a bunch of stupid things about Wittgenstein. But then I was like reading what Wittgenstein thought his philosophy meant, not in the notebooks, but like later on. I'm like, oh, maybe he had a point, actually. But yeah, late Wittgenstein's language of resemblance, that sort of thing.
I read late Wittgenstein first and then early Wittgenstein, and I think my walk perspective on this is, yeah, obviously late, but in early Wittgenstein, as opposed to it being what people say is like a complete reversal, you can actually completely see the late Wittgenstein and the early Wittgenstein, and it's much more of a developmental process rather than an inversion as it's commonly understood.
I do think there's a continuity there, because I always used to get, like, as a poet, I have quoted the last line of the Tractatus actually in poems like 7 or 8 times. Nice. But I do think, oh yeah, of course he would start realizing that you have to deal with language categories more seriously, and you can't just be like, we've solved philosophy because it doesn't do anything. Have a nice because that's kind of what I wrote a paper when I was still in undergrad about the Tractatus, and I was like, if you take that really seriously, it's like, why do we do philosophy? Like, you got logic, and the rest of it's not. We can't speak on it anyway. Like, which is and Wittgenstein, by the way, very much thought the rest of it was real. It's just you couldn't say anything about it. So, yeah.
So we've finished all the questions, but as a cool down exercise, I would like you to actually. This is the actual quiz part. These answers are right or wrong. So they also did a demographic survey, and they asked the question: non-living philosophers identified with. You could only give one answer, and you had to give the philosopher you identified most with. What do you think the top 10 from analytic philosophers were? You can try and go from one, or you can just give some, just throw some stuff out. Or
Rawlsianism.
Rawls is 11th.
Ah, damn it! I knew it would be up there.
Well, I'll give you 10/11ths of a point for that.
Aristotelianism
is first. Aristotle is first.
Yeah. Quine.
Quine is 6th.
Ha. Wittgenstein
is 5th. You're doing very well.
Let me think about what else have we got. Hume
is 2nd.
I know how these fuckers think. It's a question that, am I going to say Kant? Because Kant could be 10, but he's also associated with the German idealist tradition, but he's like the one people will actually use in both traditions. Maybe Kant.
Kant is 3rd.
Ha
Kant is the big 3. So it's 238 for Aristotle, 221 for Hume, and then 188 for Kant.
At least I got the big 3. Let's see. Down from Quine. Carnap.
Carnap is on there. He is 8th.
Right. Moore. Yeah, G.
Moore is not in the top 10.
Ah, damn it!
The first actual wrong one, because he is on here and he's about 20th.
It's just too old.
He's actually just above Nietzsche.
Analytic Nietzscheans are fun because they're fucking weird. Let's see. see who else. Mill.
Mill is not in the top 10. He is 12th.
Okay, so think. Who else did we study a lot? If Mill's not in the top 10, then I doubt Bentham would be either.
Bentham, I can't even see on here.
Russell?
Russell, yep.
Okay.
Russell is 9th. So how many are you missing? Let me check. You are missing 1, 2. I think you're just missing 2, maybe 3. I can't remember if you said one of them. Okay, I'll just have to check. Did you say Carnap?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. Okay, in that case, you're only missing 2.
And I got 2 wrong. So what are the 2 I missed?
You got 3 wrong.
Okay, 3 wrong.
The 2 you missed are Frege.
Oh, shit, I should have known that. Yeah.
And Plato.
Analytic Platonist just. Yeah, I should have said that because it's both obvious, but also like you guys don't actually do Plato. Like,
Plato is 10th. The list goes Aristotle, Hume, Kant, Lewis, Wittgenstein, Quine, Frege, Carnap, Russell, Plato, Rawls, Mills, Aquinas, Marx, Socrates, which is just a silly thing to have on here, Descartes, James, Parfit, Dewey, Davidson, Putman, Leibniz, Amscom, Moore, Nietzsche, Hegel, Heidegger, and then it keeps going.
Right. I think it's funny that you guys are like you were going through continentals. I'm like, no, not Spinoza. No, Hegel's like the enemy and only has Brandom made Hegel safe for analytics to even open. Let's see what I mean. Nietzsche, Marxian analytics are funny. Analytic Marxism. My thing about analytic Marxism is it has very little to do with analytic philosophy and not that much to do with Marxism.
Do you think Confucius ranked higher than Derrida, or do you think it's the other way around?
Oh, fuck me. Probably lower.
A mighty 7 people said Confucius and 8 people said Derrida.
Aha! Like I'm trying to imagine what an analytic Derrida paper would be other than an exercise in futility. Like, actually, I kind of want to read analytic Heidegger because I think that would mostly be bullshit too.
Yeah. 22 said Kierkegaard. 23 said Augustine.
Someone asked about Charles Sanders Peirce. Peirce. Excuse me.
Peirce. What was that? Is it? How do you remember? Is it PEA, or is it?
It's PIE. Even though it's not pronounced that way. Yeah.
Pierce. I don't think so.
Okay. He's kind of a.
No. He is. He's 26 in between Augustine and de Bouvier. Yep.
Once you get out of the top 10, it gets weird because they are appropriating philosophers. Like,
I mean, to be clear, that 100 continental philosophers did answer this, but of course, we're getting way higher numbers than that for the one picked. So I assume half of it is continentals of the small minority, then half of it is weird analytic people.
Yeah, whatever Brandom is doing this week probably has affected it. Our Way Brazier, back when the days when he was trying to bridge continental and analytic philosophy through eliminationism, which I think has completely gone away.
The ones on the list who actually got 3 votes to be present, but are the lowest position, includes Sextus Empiricus, Tarski, Ryle, Kuhn, Hart, Hare, Epicurus, Chisholm, and Avicenna.
Wow, someone's like, we got the one analytic doing Muslim philosophy from the 12th century. Cool, I guess.
Who are these?
That guy.
Who are these philosophers? All live in England or Boston? ?
Probably. I mean, it is kind of amazing. Like when you look at continentals are represented in this, but I'm like, if you look at like who continentals talk about, like you would not know about any of this. I remember.
I'm just now thinking like the continental version of this survey, and each question would be like an essay itself.
Yes. Yeah. And we wouldn't agree on the terms.
Yeah, and there would be no. You'd have to type out your answer.
Right. And one of them might even be a math theme. Like I might have to draw a diagram that doesn't correspond to anything.
I do love that analytic philosophers are just like the most important question ever, most complex question ever, and they're like, yes or no.
Is Lao Tzu on there, dare I ask? Probably not.
Lao Tzu. I mean, there are like Chinese ones do rank. Is Lao Tzu the same as Lao Zi, as in Laozi? Then he has 5.
Okay.
He's on the same ranking as Deleuze, but below Schopenhauer, and also 1 below the Buddha.
There's more analytic Buddhist. No. Actually, probably know who that guy is. Every now and then it's like, I wonder if I know the person who answered this question.
Yes.
In the survey.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Great. That's all
right.
I have for today. Next week I'm not sure what I'm going to be doing. I might eventually have to talk about Syria. The idea also I want to just continue to focus on abstractions. I'm thinking I'm inclined to do as kind of we almost got into here, a discussion on kind of duties and obligations.
Mm-hmm.
Where we now feel that, like, you know, if we're not doing something for pleasure, then it means we don't actually want to do it. While I'm completely convinced that actually, no, we do want to fulfill our duties and obligations on a way that doesn't have anything to do with feeling good.
Yeah.
And of course, as I always say at the end of the show, at the wrong time, I should say at the start, I'm not going to play Race Guesser with Varn. Mostly because I'm hungover and hungry. And I don't know if Varn wants to play the racism game.
Probably not, since I get accused of making new racisms up. So
not as powerful as Gene. But yes, if you have an idea for next week, then please put it in the comments. The problem with saying it now is no one that watches on VOD watches until the end, because as soon as we start winding down, they disconnect, they turn the video off, right? So saying it now is pointless, because if anyone has an idea in chat, they'll just say it now. While if they're watching on VOD, then they don't watch until now.
Right.
But yes, good night and goodbye, everyone. Thank you very much, Ron, for coming. That was a great deal of fun after we got over our initial technical problems.
Yes, indeed. Sorry you had to bullshit for 15 minutes. All right.
Yeah, it's fine. Bye.
Start eating that trash can.
I already am eating from the trash can all the time.